I would like to welcome Chris Ruff from Digital Europe. Good morning, Chris, from Athens. How are you doing? Thank you so much for being here today.
Good morning, Yanis. Kalimera. Thank you for having me.
The floor is yours. You can go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, I'm very pleased to join you today. And firstly, I'd like to say on behalf of my Director General, Cecilia Bonafel-Dal, she's very sorry she cannot make it. And we hope to see you all in Athens this time next year. So, for those of you that don't know, what is Digital Europe? So Digital Europe is the largest trade association in Europe, representing some 36,000 companies, small European startups, larger players, national champions, and some of the biggest players from around the world. And not only ICT companies, but of course the whole digitalizing industry. Increasingly, we are seeing members from the healthcare sector, manufacturing too. So together, these 36,000 companies are looking to build a stronger digital Europe. Now, as you just heard from Vice President Skinas, just over a year ago, President von der Leyen in the European Commission set an ambitious target that the next 10 years would be the digital decade. Now, Digital Europe, for many years already, we have been saying that the theme of your conference today, digitalization, is no longer a choice, but it is a necessity. And it took COVID and the COVID crisis for the political world to realize that too. So we're in an excellent place now where the European Commission, with President von der Leyen, has set a strategy now. So how do we follow that up? That's the theme of my presentation today. Now, the good thing is that we have, although there were 20% of the COVID funds, the 750 billion allocated to digital, in fact, when we see all the plans, that is closer to 26%. And on top of that, you have the Digital Europe program, which is new for this commission, 7.5 billion, which is dedicated to the deployment of technologies, as well as the Horizon Europe research fund, a large portion of which is dedicated to digital too. So we have the investment. Now, I want to take a quick look at the Greek plan. Now, if you look at the Greek plan, it's clear that in Greece there is some work to do on digitalization, but there is a huge amount of readiness there. On 5G, the legislation's in place. On open data, the legislation's in place. You've already revised the educational curricula. All of these things Digital Europe had been calling for in all of the country plans. There's strong political support for the digitalization agenda. And around over 20% has been dedicated to the digital transition. So Greece is in a very good place for the digital decade. I mentioned that we had a plan. When the money was put forward for digitalization, we quickly came out with our members with 5 key areas, including digital education, digital healthcare, digitalizing SMEs, the digital transformation with the Green Deal, and connectivity, 5G, and the rollout of very high-speed broadband. Now, I want to focus on 2 areas today. So the first one is data. Now, we all know that data is fundamental to the digital economy, but businesses are not making use of it. We see only 3% in 2020 of Europe's GDP is represented by the data economy. Back in 2019, Digital Europe set ambitious KPIs for Europe by 2025. One of them is that the data economy should be worth 6% of GDP. Another is that half of businesses should be using advanced cloud services, and half of small businesses should be using big data analytics. So data, as you heard from Vice President Skinas, is on the Commission's agenda. It's very high, and there are a number of initiatives, a huge amount of initiatives aimed at encouraging businesses to both move into the data economy, but also crucially share that data. Europe has a very strong industrial base. So we had an agreement already in Brussels earlier this year on the Data Governance Act, which will set the rules on how the data can be shared. In the next couple of months, we will see a proposal on the Data Act itself, the measures to encourage businesses to actually share that data. We have the industry-led initiative Gaia X, which is about setting the technical framework and standards to allow data sharing to occur. And as I mentioned before, the Digital Europe program, not to be confused by Digital Europe Us, although we hope the program was inspired by us, the Digital Europe program has assigned a lot of money to actually build the data spaces. And this is something that we as an association are very much getting involved in. How can we build the infrastructure and get the companies on board to actually share that data and reap the benefits? And finally, COVID was first and foremost a health crisis. And when we look at the data spaces that the EU looks to put forward, the first one on the agenda will be the European health data space. We all know how much data has been able to accelerate treatments and accelerate the search for vaccines for COVID and cancer and other diseases that are affecting European citizens. So this is something we're very keenly looking forward to in Q2. And actually, that's the second point I wanted to raise today, which is digital health. Digital health, there's huge potential for digital health and for how we use data to find those treatments quicker and use artificial intelligence. It is estimated that around a third of the world's stored data is health data. But unfortunately, a lot of that data is stored on paper in different forms. It's not interoperable. It's not something that can be shared easily. And within Europe, in each country, there are different rules of how to use that data, the sensitive data. So we released a paper last month looking at how we can basically encourage patients, encourage healthcare providers, encourage everyone in the healthcare ecosystem to share that data for the benefit of all. Now, the European Health Data Space proposal, when it comes out, will be an extremely complicated piece of legislation. But in our paper, we believe it boils down to one word, and that word is trust. And if you look here at the 4 pillars for trust in our paper, they can be described as this. So the first one is we think it is essential that everyone within that healthcare community, the patients, the professionals, everyone can see what's in it for me. If we're sharing data, what's in it for me? For patients, we need to be able to describe clearly what this means. If you're sharing your data, this means that we can get faster treatments for those illnesses that you have to make your life better. For the healthcare providers who might be worried, is technology, is artificial intelligence going to be taking away my job? No, we have to explain properly how health data can be shared for the benefit of you and your job to make it easier. The second pillar is we need to make sure that citizens know that when they share their data or where their data is shared, that it will be safe, that we have a secure and interoperable infrastructure for sharing that data. And hopefully we can harmonize the data protection rules across Europe to ease that and make sure that it is done correctly and easily. So the third pillar is that a lot of this data sharing is already happening amongst companies with the public sector on a smaller scale. What we want to do is make sure that the European health data space builds upon these success stories and sets those standards based on what's already been done now. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we do need to scale it up. And finally, we need to focus on skills, on the digital health literacy. We all know that many, many more citizens have been accessing health services online since the beginning of the pandemic. We need to make sure that this continues, that the skills that are important for every aspect of digitalization, they're also vitally important for health as well, to ensure that trust that I spoke about before. So those are the 4 pillars that are in our paper, and we will be taking this over the next few months to the Commission and the member states, because this is really a joint effort to create this European health data space. And it won't be easy, but we think we can get there, and the rewards will be huge. Now, as I said, at Digital Europe, we like setting targets. So if we want this to be the digital health decade, these are the targets that we have set for Europe and all member states to achieve by 2030. We believe all citizens should have access to secure access to their electronic health records, including when they go on holiday or when they move for work. We need to make sure that we have a common consent form that's easily accessible and simple to fill out for all countries, as well as your EID services across Europe. each member state should have a central health data authority. Roughly only around half do at the moment. This will ease the process for health data sharing hugely. And at the same time, we need a EU-level health data entity to promote that data sharing. So this is our plan for digital health. We think there's a huge opportunity here, but we want to set those ambitious targets alongside the targets that have already been set in the European Digital Health, the European Digital Decade Strategy. So, in brief, we looked at data, we looked at digital health. Now, both of these are an example of where we need to find the balance between preserving the values, preserving European fundamental rights, as well as creating value, as well as putting the conditions in place for businesses, small and large, across Europe to grow, to scale, and to create good, well-paying jobs. Now, we believe there is a balance where, and this is what Digital Europe is striving for every day between the two. And I think health and the data sharing agenda are two excellent examples of that. And if you're interested in finding out more, I'd be very happy to hear from you. Thank you very much for your attention today. I would like to thank again Yanis and the CEPE team for having us and letting us speak to you again today. We would be very glad to see you next year in Athens. Thank you very much, Yanis.
Thank you so much for being here today with us. Fortunately, next year you will be here in Athens, enjoying the weather and to be all together for your presentation. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest. My regards to Brussels. Bye. Bye.